I say, what ho, this is Brian. Call me the hitched up reindeer. Gardner, coming to you from Ice Station Zeppelin, aka Santa's Workshop Studio at Ramble on Towers in scenic Hespeler, Ontario. And you are listening to Ramble on Radio, episode 112 on the Off the Cuff Podcasting Network. Ramble on Radio is the only Led Zeppelin podcast on this or any other known internets. Be sure to go to rambleonradio.com for all your news, reviews, and any links I might mention during the show. You can subscribe to Ramble on Radio through iTunes. If you go to iTunes, say you're picking up Steve Sauer, friend of the show, Steve Sauer's I'm Not From Texas. I think that's what it's called. But if you Google Steve Sauer, Not From Texas, you'll find it. You're picking that up as a quick last minute, you just wanted to pick it up. Go to Ramble on Radio, Google it, pop over, leave a review. It helps see the iTunes computer see us better. The more people review us. It doesn't matter if it's a good review or a bad review. The review helps. That's all. Where am I? Hold on. You can go to listen at Podbean at I Am Brian Dammit, and I believe Podbean has an app in both Apple and the other one. How's that? You know what I mean, the Samsung one. And you can listen to us on Spreaker, SPREAKER.com. And be sure to follow Ramble on Radio on Spreaker. If you go over to Spreaker, give us a follow. Get enough follows, and every once in a while I submit a show to iHeartRadio, which would put this show in front of thousands, literally thousands of people. And it would be... It helps. They own Spreaker, so lots of followers on Spreaker helps with that. And you can also follow Ramble on Radio on Facebook, Google Plus, and at Ramble on Blog on Twitter as well. Check us out on YouTube. I have some previous episodes on there, and I have this very episode going up on YouTube. And by the way, if you check this episode out on YouTube, and it's out of sync, I don't know why that's happening, but it's happening right now, and I don't know if it'll correct itself when I settle everything in. But yeah, I'm kind of weirded out. Wave my hand around, and it's not doing. It's like I'm hearing myself from a mile away or something, you know. All right, this day in history. December 14. Well, not this day. This weekish. December 14, 2005. Jimmy Page receives his OBE. What's the actual date today? 21st. Today's the 21st, by the way. So that was a week ago and 10 years. December 15, 2006. Ahmet Ertegun dies, age 83. He was at a Rolling Stones concert, fell backstage, and when you're 83 years old and you fall, it's never, ever, ever, ever a good thing. Point blank. December 25th, year zero, Jesus was born. There you go. December 25th, 1968, Led Zeppelin arrive in the USA for their first tour. December 26, 1968, Led Zeppelin make their first U.S. appearance, opening for Vanilla Fudge and Spirit at the Denver Auditorium. Spirit is interesting in that because, of course, they wrote, they had a piece called Taurus in their set list, which is now in dispute whether Jimmy Page ripped off Taurus for Stairway to Heaven. So Spirit was there. They can't say they've never heard of them. They can put it that way. December 30, 1968, the band Len Zeppelin appeared at Gonzaga University in Spokane. That's how they were advertised, Len Zeppelin. And October 31st, 2008, Robert Plant appeared on the Queen's New Year's Honors List, becoming a CBE for his services to music. So we have, within a couple of years of each other, and a couple of weeks and a couple of years, both Page and Plant receiving royal honors. And I believe in that list, by the way, I believe the CBE outranks the OBE. I think is how that works. All right, I've had a few things pop up. Jimmy Page is an interview with Classic Rock. I haven't had a chance to read the whole thing. I read a bit of it. What what I read, they sound like they were going from start to finish, but I have not read the whole thing. But there's been a couple of page interviews recently, and the tone of the suggestion from the tone of the interviews is that he is definitely going to be performing next year. Definitely getting an album out. Definitely going on the road. Not, I hope to be seen, not to be. The tone seems to be that he's saying, I will be. And people are taking him as I will be. It will happen this year. So, cross our fingers, right? Maybe that's on. Maybe that's on. What the heck's on the side of my hand? Man, nothing. Yeah, maybe we're getting some Jimmy Page next year. Next year, we'll be talking about what a great year it was with new Jimmy Page. I'll be mid-July wondering what to talk about, and a Jimmy Page tour will pop up. Wouldn't that be great? Wouldn't that be something? So that's true. Now, that said, I wanted to mention this anyway. A Steve Sauer interview popped up this week. Steve is a friend of this show. He's been on this show before. I'm going to try and get him on again in the next little while, actually. And he did like a 30-minute interview with Miles Kennedy, who in 2008 rehearsed with Jimmy Page, Jean Paul Jones, and Jason Bonham. Worked on some of the material they had, that sort of thing. And Miles is lead singer from Alter Bridge at the time, Alter Bridge. He currently tours with Slash. So when Zeppelin decided he wasn't their guy, Slash decided he was. And okay, you've seen it, right? I'm losing the Santa hat here, just so you guys know. I'm losing it. I'm gonna sit there. I'll tell you what, we're gonna put it on top of Jimmy Page over here. All right. Looks better on him than me. Hey, have you heard there's a drinking game? You put it on the corner of your TV like this, like I've done with Jimmy. And anytime somebody in the TV actually appears to be wearing the hat, you take a drink. Just saying. And that's with Santa hats. Just saying. So Steve, it was about a year after that Steve talked to Kennedy. And they talked quite a bit about his turn with Zeppelin. Now, I don't know why the interview didn't turn up until this week. I mean, Steve released it this week. Who he was working for, why this interview didn't pop up, or maybe it didn't. Maybe part of it did somewhere, but not the Zeppelin part, so we didn't notice it here. But an interesting kind of turn in that is they talk about Jimmy Page, and Steve mentions, I see he's got an album coming out next year and a tour. And Kennedy says, yeah, I guess that's so, So, there you go. And Steve does ask the one question I would have asked at that time, especially, whether any of the music they rehearsed with Led Zeppelin appeared on Them Crooked Vultures. Which it, according to Kennedy, didn't. He only worked on 2 songs, so whether they had more songs than that working, he worked on 2 songs for them. So that was interesting anyway. That was very interesting. And then there is the... I have not seen it, by the way. I have not read it or seen it. There is a John Paul Jones interview out there. I think it was in France and in French. But I've not... I've not had a chance to check it over very closely. But it appears as though the opera is ready. And I think I read a number of opera houses are bidding on the opera. I guess is how it would work, vying to get it. So we should see his opera in the next year or 2, I suppose. Putting together an opera is not as easy as putting together a rock show, by the way. It takes some number of months, and then some production and whatnot. Now, putting together a big rock show takes months too, but it takes months because of the technical stuff and because of the businessy stuff. But realistically, Jimmy Page wants to be touring by April. He could probably be doing it. Tickets could be sold a month in advance. If he's got a band ready, put together the rehearsals. Okay, we're ready to go. Let's get some dates on the table. It can be done in short order. It's not necessarily is done, but it can be. But an opera is a different story. There's an orchestra to book and parts to learn. There's a conductor to be dealt with. There's staging to be built. There's lighting to be sorted through. There's actors, singers to be gotten. Actors, actresses, choruses, so on and so forth. It's a big production, and it takes 6 months, 8 months, a year to get it off the ground. So don't expect John Paul Jones opera, for June. Maybe the opera season tends to run through the fall and winter anyway. Maybe next fall, but that would be pushing it. I would think the year after would be a more reasonable bet, but that's just a guess on my part. But there is a Jonesy interview out there, and he's also appeared at a festival. He's doing like a music clinic in the States, and I don't have all the details of that stuff. I will sort it out probably for the next one in the new year. But he's got a lot. He's starting to get busy, outwardly busy, instead of working on his opera, which is busy, but it's busy in a way we don't see. Now he's starting to get busy in a way we would notice. So, all right, this is the annual Christmas. You can tell by the Santa hat on Jimmy that used to be on me. And I have a pile of stuff here that I'm going to pull out. If you're on YouTube, that is. If you're listening to me, you don't see or hear any of that stuff. I have the old Led Zeppelin Christmas list. Every year I do this. Every year we discuss some stuff you can get. This is probably a lesser list than other years. Other years I go through eBay and go, let's get this, let's get that. If you go on eBay, for instance, you will likely find an object from the Presents album. Personally, I'm a Led Zeppelin fan in your house. I would love an object. It would look great on my desk, which, if you could see the whole thing, is cluttered beyond belief, and is the reason I probably never bothered to buy one, is I really don't have a spot for it, and it would just be more clutter. But that's, doesn't mean you can't, right? Doesn't mean you can't. So anyway, yeah, if you go on YouTube and just Google Led Zeppelin, you'll find t-shirts. You'll probably find dragon suits. You'll find almost anything you could want. So, and the other thing is, most years there's books. Most years at this time I'm talking about, I've reviewed a couple of books. Last year we had about 4 books, and I got my hands on 2 or 3 of them, reviewed them early, reviewed them. I don't think there's any this year. I haven't seen any books this year at all. I have not seen any. Now, last year there was one called Led Zeppelin on Led Zeppelin, which I stumbled across when I was Christmas shopping. I otherwise didn't know it existed. And it was basically interviews of through the years on the guys on Led Zeppelin and talking about the band and whatnot. And so there may be a book or 2 out there that I'm not up on. But I'm gonna pull something out here. But stuff falls. See, it's a clutter mess, and this is my shelves, not my desk. It's a cluster. Oof. All right. So there's no new books on the list, but I got some old books up here. Basically, if you've appeared on this program, I'm showing the book today. I think that's fair, right? And then we have some CDs and whatnot to talk about. Obviously, we have CDs to talk about. We should start with the remasters. All 10 albums have been remastered. We've talked about nothing but in the last little while, yeah? And then there's the box sets. Look, if you have a Zeppelin fan in your household, I knew that was going to happen. I knew they were going to get a topple, but anyway. If you have a Zeppelin fan in your household, one of these, Led Zeppelin, any, this is the 3rd album, but Led Zeppelin, any in the box set. The box set is a complete, comes with a big book, comes with a little poster, comes with the albums, it comes with the CDs. When you buy it, keep the receipt. Just saying. Comes with like a little poster, an album cover poster. The records, original and deluxe. And the CDs are the same. That's the box sets. Plus a download code in high def. And you can look at it because it's already been used. That is the box sets. And they are on every album. 1st album, 2nd album, 3rd album, 4th album. Houses of the Holy, Physical Graffiti Presence, and In Through the Outdoor and Coda. Just to show you, there's the 4th album. I have 3 of them. I will have 4 of them in a week. Because like I said, this is what the Led Zeppelin fan in your house really wants if he doesn't already have it, the box sets. And so I kind of put the In Through the Outdoors the top of my list. And let's not make any mistakes. Let me fix myself up already. Everything's falling. By the way, the Jimmy Page Action, whatever it is, complete with Marshall amp. Zeppelin fan would love it. If he's got a desk, a place to put stuff like that, he would love it. Trust me on this. Trust me. That's on the list. Fits in a stocking, people. So there's that. There's and you can also buy those in CD. You can buy them on LP. Those are all the remasters. You can give them my iTunes downloads card, and they can download the remasters. But really, get them the box set. Let them download the high def and move it to their iPod that way. It's just the way to go. They're $150-ish, so they're not cheap, which why they make a nice Christmas gift. They're not outrageously expensive, but they're not. They're not. They're not a cheap, easy gift. So it's falls in the range for a lot of people for Christmas. I guess is the point, right? That you're kind of looking to spend. Well, I'd spend $100, $200 maybe. I like them a lot. I did marry them. That sort of thing. There's also Robert Plant's More Roar was released this year for Record Store Day. It is a live recording of some of the newer stuff, some of the stuff from Lullaby and the Ceaseless Roar as well. Lullaby and the Ceaseless Roar is out there. It's only 2 years old. It's worth picking up, yeah. Didn't bring it down. I meant to bring it down. Jimmy Page's soundtracks and other in the CDs, 4 CD set. It's the new he released Lucifer Rising and Death Wish 2 soundtrack with bonus material. So it's 4 CDs. So you get the 2 that already exist plus the 2 more. You're into bonus CD material. And the bonus for Death Wish 2 is probably better than the actual soundtrack. I think that's one of the things I'd heard a bit about this. Is some of the bonus stuff was better. Likely because they're instead of being chopped around to fit a movie, they're more complete thoughts. So some of the stuff is quite good on the soundtrack. But it's available. I bought it for £18. I got it here for less than $40, 4 CDs. Now the LPs are more expensive. It's still £80. Getting it here would cost me probably $150 Canadian. So it's not happening. But the CDs were nice, and it's in a nice package, and it's got a nice booklet with it. And he does presentation well. Give Page credit for that. He will hit you in the cost department, but he does presentation really, really well. Yeah. Suddenly I'm Gordon Ramsay. Yeah. I'm Canadian. I'm supposed to say A. A website called Pop Market, popmarket.com. You have to register with them to buy stuff, but it's harmless enough, and you will get updates and stuff. And they sell a lot of stuff cheap. They have big sales. They come, they're gone. Next 48 hours, there's only, and it's half price, and it's often the box set type of thing or something like that. Anyway, they are selling the box set bundle, all 9 Led Zeppelin remaster box sets, only $1,183.99. Only. That's like $118 per, right? 10 sets, is that right? 4 plus House of the Holy, Physical Graffiti, Presents, Into the Outdoor Quarter, 9. So now I have to do math? Wait, math. This was supposed to be a no math podcast. I hate when math pops up. So we'll do it quickly. So 9. So it's 1183 divided by 9 is $131.44 per box set, which is actually a decent price. This was on sale for $9.99 a couple of weeks ago. This is where I found it, which is $111 a box set. Should have known that math should have been doable. But, you know, you have $1,000 to drop really. But that's what you're dropping. If you do it at $150, it's, you know, over time, it's going to be $1,400. That's how this works. They get $1,500 out of your pocket just like that. There's another couple of CDs worth mentioning, I think. Paul Hammond. Now, I've talked about, there's other Led Zeppelin tribute bands. There's some very good ones that I, you know, because they play on the West Coast, I'll never see them or whatever. I've become friendly and a big fan of Get the Lead Out. And I say I'm you know, I go for drinks with some of the guys in the band after shows and stuff nowadays. I'm friends with them more than anything. Met them through Steve Sauer, who's been on the podcast, who I wrote on his blog for a while, and he has played with them at times. So that's all in. But guitarist Paul Hammond has a new CD out. If you look him up on Facebook, it's probably the easiest way to do it. Go to Get the Lead Out on Facebook or search for Paul Hammond and he's a long hair with a guitar. And the disc is called About That Guitar. Does not appear to be available on iTunes yet. Anyway, I don't know if it will be. I am anxiously awaiting my copy. I cannot recommend it because I have not heard it. But I can tell you that people who have heard it, some people I know, including friend of the show, Natch Titla, loves it. Loves it. Instrumental, by the way, all instrumental. Paul's an extraordinary musician. He's an exceptional, he does record production. So he's exceptionally good in the studio. He's good at production. He's good at creating sounds. He's a real fussy about sounds kind of guy. So he's, and he has a CD out called About That Guitar. And again, fair warning, I'm not recommending it because I have not heard it. I can't do that. But I can tell you, go look yourself. Maybe that interests you anyway. And I do have a copy coming. So I should know by the next time or two. And maybe it's time to get Hammond on the show anyway. We'll talk about his CD and talk about the band and what it's like playing in a Zeppelin tribute band. It might be a really neat thing to do. And I'll think about doing that in the new year. Yeah, Andrew Lipke he's the keyboard player / plays guitar. He's a multi-instrumentalist, extremely talented guy. He has a classical background. And he has an album called Siddhartha. Siddhartha, one of the songs in Siddhartha was recommended, was shortlisted for a Grammy, I guess is the phrase. There's the nominees, right? And there's the Grammy winner, there's the nominees, and then there's a short list prior to the nominees, and they get the nominees from the short list. So Andrew was shortlisted for a Grammy for one of the songs on Siddhartha, and I believe it had to do with arrangements anyway. Musical arrangement or something like that, instrumental arrangement, but it was not an instrumental song, but it was, so there is that. And finally, there is one last one that I want to mention. Maybe I'll play a touch of it for you. What do you think? This is called, I want to get the title right. My friend, Steve Sauer, I just mentioned him. He's been on the show. He's one of the first guests I ever had on the show. He ran a website, Led Zeppelin News. He's working as a professional musician these days. He does some writing. He works for Carol Miller's Get the Lead Out. And we're going to talk about that in a minute over here. And Steve also has a song on. I stumbled across this week. Has a song. It's on iTunes called "No, I Ain't From Texas" by Steve Sauer. And you can also, if you got Spotify, you can listen to it for nothing. You know, and I'm gonna play a little bit of it for you. And I'm thinking I should get Steve on the show. The next little while, and we'll talk about just a whole bunch of stuff, and maybe try and get that interview that he did. Maybe try and get permission to post the relevant part. Anyway, I won't bore you to death. I'll get to a little bit of vocals here. He sounds like Randy Bachman when he sings, you know? Anyway, that's Steve Sauer, and it's 99 cents for the song on iTunes. And no, I have not found it on the download sites. But you can support local music, support small guy. Tell all your friends, buy it. Anyway, I wanted to mention that. I only found that this week. So since we're talking playing music, and you're gonna have to, if you're on YouTube, you're gonna have to excuse me because I'm jumping back and forth to pick stuff up. If you're a guitar player, there are these books. They are called Alfred Guitar. They're Alfred's Platinum Album Editions. Guitar tab, authentic guitar tab. I've got a couple here, and they're by Alfred Music Books, and they are the exact tabs for the Led Zeppelin songs in an album. And by the way, if you get Coda, much to my surprise, White Summer, Black Mountain Side, Traveling Riverside Blues, and Hey Hey What Can I Do, and Baby Come On Home are all on it. So those are good. If you're a guitar player, if you're a bass player, there's bass tabs as well. Okay, and if you have somebody in the house if you're new, if you're learning guitar, or if you bought a guitar for your youngin' this year, I have Led Zeppelin Guitar Method. This starts from scratch. This starts from nothing. Yeah. What the hell? Where did I get that from? Yeah. If I'm going to talk like Gordon Ramsay, I'm going to have to swear a lot more. Which actually, off the microphone, I do. But, but so you learn to do this by playing Led Zeppelin songs. So most, for instance, there is here, they've gone to a standard here. Aura Lee, which is, if you've learned to play guitar, any of the beginning Mel Bay books, that sort of thing, it's in there. We all kind of learnt that song. It's about the only one, though, that is like that. So they had a little bit of the intro, and they do, like I said, there's Ode to Joy in there as well. But then in a rock and rhythm. But then about once they get into some chords and stuff, once they get into 3 strings, it opens up, and it's all Led Zeppelin stuff. Whole Lot of Love, Going to California. Now, early stage is just the melodies. Oh, there's the lick of Moby Dick. And there's a little bit of Thank You. But then it gets into chords, and you get into songs, and by the end, you're finger-picking. You do a finger-picking version of Babe, I'm Gonna Leave You. And they did do Bo-Ray and E minor. It's a little finger-picking classical stuff, gets you going there. And while it seems like an odd to throw a Bach in, Jimmy Page used to play that during his Heartbreaker solo live. So that book is called Led Zeppelin Guitar Method by Alfred. About 3 years ago, 2 years ago maybe, I got a copy of this from them to review, and I did. And what year was it? I can't read it. So the Led Zeppelin. So if you have a young guitar player in the house, that's probably best. It would work for if you yourself, if you're an adult and you decided this is the year I learned to play guitar, you would enjoy this, but it's a little oversimplified. So you may find yourself going, you may find yourself kind of a little bored with it. But at the same token, you can learn from another source. You could be learning, going to the internet, getting tabs and stuff, and using this as you grow. Okay, I'm going to pull this out and do this. It would be an excellent supplementary source for an adult. It would be a decent learning material for a younger person, for a teenager, especially if they're into Led Zeppelin. If they grew up in the house, if they grew up in a house where Led Zeppelin's always been played, then they're going to know those melodies. So it's a little easier to learn to play the melodies when you know it. A lot of the classic Mel Bay books and stuff use stuff that's 60 years old. And young kids, I didn't know in the 70s, so there was stuff I didn't know. And then when you got to something you knew, it was easier to learn. Jingle Bells was easier to learn on Aura Lee, even though Jingle Bells had a tricky little bit in it. And by tricky, I mean tricky for a raw beginner, not for anybody who's ever played, for weeks. It's an easy song, but it has a little tricky little thingy that but it's easier to learn than Aura Lee was, which is no tricky little thingies, because you knew what it's supposed to sound like. So that could be helpful for somebody. All right, into the books. Of course, there's Jimmy Page by Jimmy Page, the photographic autobiography. And say hi. Hi, I'm Jimmy. And he's supposed to have his Santa hat, right? So there's Jimmy in the Santa hat. Merry Christmas, everybody. Right? All right. And, okay, so Type But Loose is celebrating, is selling their 40th edition, I think it is. Issue 40, and it's a big celebration of all the years. He's going back in time and stuff. He's making a big deal out of it. He is available through an app, although the edition is not. There's the last one. There's 39. If you go to, Dave Lewis is a friend here. He's been on the show a number of times. typebutloose.co.uk, and I'm going to try and show that to the camera nice and close. typebutloose.co.uk. You can get the latest Type But Loose. You can order a subscription for next year. You can buy number 40. You can buy some back issues. There's also, like I said, an app. Let me just dig it up on the newsstand. The app is called Magster, Magzter. They have... Should make sure I'm still rolling, right? Yep. They have Type But Loose. The new edition is not there yet. I don't know why. I don't know what the holdup is. It should be there before the magazine's hitting your... Right? If he's mailing it from England, I should be reading it here the day he's mailing it, in my opinion. So I'm a little... But this is the first edition. So what the heck? I'm just doing a quick search right now to see if Type But Loose. No, still issue number 39. You can see there's Magster. There's issue 39, the one I just showed you. So the new one is not up there yet. You can't buy it yet. But that's the way to go. What have we got here? Friend of the show, Ralph Hewlett. Ralph Hewlett came on a couple of years ago. He was an author. And actually, very generously, sent me a lovely note after, saying thank you so much. And he included a couple of pictures of such that you would never have seen. I wonder if I have a new one. That's not what that is. I do have them up here. I know I've seen them recently. But he sent me like a picture that he had taken of Jimmy Page in 1977 that has never been published. So he was very, very nice to talk to. He did a great interview. And that book is called Whole Lot of Lead, Our Flight with Led Zeppelin, with Ralph Hewlett and Jerry Prochnicki. And over time, I will get some of these reposted as we go. Okay, we talked about Dave Lewis. I should do it this way, right? We talked about Dave Lewis. Dave Lewis has been on the show a number of times, so he also has a number of books out. Go to his website, typebutloose.co.uk, right? And these are, for instance, Nebworth and Feather in the Wind. So Nebworth is called Led Zeppelin at Nebworth 1979, 30 Years Gone Then As It Was. And Feather in the Wind is called... Feather in the Wind Over Europe 1980, and Dave went with the band to Europe. He was in Europe for a number of the shows in 1980, their last ever tour. He got pictures. He ended up side stage. He got pictures that you have never seen before, and they're two great companion books. They're both available at his website. And he's got a number of other books, too, if you just want to search Dave Lewis. George Case was also on this show one time. George, he did his Led Zeppelin FAQ, I believe, was I have that one here, too. Led Zeppelin FAQ. And he also has a great biography of Jimmy Page called Magus, Musician, Man. And I like George's writing very much. So, and he's, like I say, been on the show, friend of the show, etc., etc. From this year, Richard Cole fairly recently was on the show. There's Stairway to Heaven, Led Zeppelin Uncensored by Richard Cole. All worthy gifts for the Zeppelin. Depending on what, if they're a longtime fan who reads a lot of Zeppelin books, they've read the Richard Cole. But if they're kind of not, just kind of starting to get into that sort of thing, and they don't read a lot of books, Maybe the Richard Cole would be a good one to get them into the various elements of Led Zeppelin lore. Okay, we're down to a couple more. Oh, there's one more. See, I knew I had another Led Zeppelin 3 as well on the old Platinum Editions music. We talked a little bit about this. The 75 tour happened, of course, 30 years ago. And we talked early in the year about, and I used this book as my reference, Led Zeppelin 75 from Stephen Davis. And I enjoy this. I like this book, and it's an excellent reference. He was on the tour, and it's his story. So how he wound up on the tour, the shows he saw, the interviews he had, the ex-girlfriend that he messed with. And some of it's, as a Zeppelin fan, you go, well, this is not what I care about. But it is interesting. It's an interesting book. If a little self-centered, maybe. And Denny Selmack from Carol Miller's Get the Leads Out producer. This is called Get the Lead Out, How Led Zeppelin Became the Biggest Band in the World. It's like a coffee table book. And there's whole segments on what they did in a given kind of a timeline. So as you go along, there's chapters. So here we are in 1972, and it gives you January. Jimmy Page hosted Led Zeppelin at his home studio for rehearsals, etc., that sort of thing. That was written by Steve Sauer, that part. That's a big coffee table book, and it's a couple years old now, so it's the kind of book you start finding for, $9.99 in the cheap rack after a couple of years, and so it might be worth getting. Zeppelin fan would love it. He'll spend all of Christmas Day sitting reading it, going over it, and it's good stuff. I'm out of stuff. I have this, a DVD on Led Zeppelin's Physical Graffiti, and it kind of how, and when I was talking about Physical Graffiti this year, this was a lot of my source info. A few books too, but I pulled out this and used it as source info. And finally, there is, however, there is one new book out. I don't have it. I asked for a review copy. Nothing came around. They never even answered me. It's Rufus Stone, limited editions. The book's called 5 Glorious Nights. Dave Lewis authored it. And it looks at the May 1975 shows at Earl's Court. The Earl's Court shows, and lots of pictures. And if you remember in July, we had Dave on talking about this very book. So 5 Glorious Nights. Can't tell you if it's a great book or not a great book. I'm guessing it's Dave Lewis, and it's a limited edition Picto book. They've gone all out. I'm guessing it's a good book. But it is, in point of fact, the only kind of new book out there this year. But it was 100. It was going to be, and a couple of years ago, it's doable because the Canadian dollar was doing pretty strong and the British pound was weak. That's reversed. So a £100 book cost me $180 to get it in my hands. It's just not doable. That's nutsy, So it didn't happen for me. Could happen for you. Anyway, that's my Christmas list. I hope you have a Merry Christmas, or whatever you celebrate. I know people weren't supposed to say that nowadays, right? But everybody's got a holiday this time of year for certain. Happy Hanukkah, Happy Kwanzaa, Happy Ramadan, or whatever. But from me to you, Merry Christmas, because that's what I do. See my Them Crooked Vultures clock behind me, by the way. Hasn't worked in ages, but looks good on the wall. And if you want to see my picture, that's Jimmy Marciano from Get the Lead Out. I took that picture myself, and I loved it so much. I put it in black and white. Went, oh yeah, that's good. So I blew it up and got him to sign it. So there you go. There's a little. Jimmy doesn't have a new CD out this year though. Can't help you on that. That's it for Ramble on the Radio, episode 211. I should say, I don't know if I'm going to be around next week to do a podcast. There's a couple of other Christmas ones, like this, where I did gift lists and stuff. I may very well post one or two of them over the next week or two, just to keep things going, and so you can hear them, and it's topical. Oh, I am not done. I am not done. And so why did I close my thing? There was a part I wanted to mention. I do this every year. I'm not, those who listen regularly know I stay away from the political stuff, and anything kind of outside of Zeppelin I don't like to touch on. And there's always, when you get outside of Zeppelin, almost everything's political. If you talk about charities, you're getting political, whether you want to or not. And it's sad some ways, but some charities have made that so by being overtly political when they're not supposed to be. But some politicians have also made it so, right? So there are a couple of charities I usually like to mention. Teenage Cancer Trust is one that Robert Plant has supported through the years. He's also currently supporting, he has a new song and a new album, I talked about it last week, that supports Syrian refugees. Apparently Robert Plant feels somewhat about that. So that's the Teenage Cancer Trust. There's also the ABC Trust. I haven't heard much of them in the last year or two. I wondered whether to put it even down. The ABC Trust, which is the something about Brazil, Action for Brazilian Children or something like that. And it's run by Jimmy Page, founded by Jimmy Page, I believe. He's certainly involved in it. Founded when he was married to a Brazilian woman, which is what happens with these things often, right? So that's the ABC Trust. Check them out online. And finally, the one I like to mention, last year I screwed this one up so bad. I sat and did a little, make sure I got it right. The Wayne Foundation. The Wayne Foundation. No, that's not a Batman joke. It's run by a woman called Jamie Walton and movie maker Kevin Smith. Kevin Smith from Clerks, Jay and Silent Bob. He's a director. Chasing Amy, Live Free or Die Hard, etc. Kevin Smith met Jamie Walton at some sort of event and suggested she start this charity, and he would help bankroll it, and he would do some fundraising for it, and he kind of helps with it. And Jamie Walton was a child prostitute. She was trafficked by basically a neighbor. And what would happen was she was Jamie Walton's schoolgirl through the week. And on weekends, she got in his car, went across state lines, and was the center of attention at sick parties in which people paid to have sex with her, which she did not get the money, by the way. Not that would make it right. And if you get a chance to search her online, whatever, there's interviews with her. She's just the most remarkable young lady. And I say young lady, she's probably about 30 now. And I've said for years, I've had a bit of a crush on her because she's just so sweet and so good-natured. And but anyway, so the Wayne Foundation fights sexual exploitation and trafficking of children. And I send them a few dollars every year, not a lot, but a few. And that's the one I recommend. That's the one from me. And again, I don't do politics here, and I know that that's kind of a bit of a hot political issue. So take it for what it's worth. Forgive me if it bothers you. We all got to stand up sometime or another. Like, if you can't stand up for sexual exploitation of children or against that, then when are you going to stand up, right? So anyway, that's it for Ramble on Radio, episode 211. Check rambleonradio.com for all the notes on this week's podcast, for Led Zeppelin news and reviews, and for any links I might mention in today's podcast. Follow Ramble on Radio on Facebook, Google+, and at Ramble on Blog on Twitter. You can subscribe to Ramble on Radio through iTunes. You go to iTunes, you're looking for Steve Sauer's song, No, I Ain't From Texas. You're looking for it, stop by Ramble on Radio and leave a review. I'm also on Spreaker. You can follow Ramble on Radio on Spreaker. At Podbean, and both Podbean and Spreaker have both Android, I got it that time, Android and Apple apps where you can listen directly. And also check us out on YouTube, Ramble on Radio on YouTube, where this particular podcast will be posted, as well as there is some prior stuff. And you get a chance to see me in a Santa hat. So thanks for listening to Ramble on Radio, episode 200. Episode 211. 112. I said that earlier too, didn't I? 211. Episode 112. Keep it coolin', babies.